Okay, so once we are done kneading or wedging our clay, now it's ready for us to start working with it. And the technique that we are going to be using is a method called slab method. So what we are going to do is we are going to create a slab. I'm going to be using this pin roller. So this is my clay, it's ready. I'm just gonna go ahead and press it right there. Then I'm gonna use my roller to get the thickness that I want. Okay, a little bit of paper got stuck to it, that's okay, should be fine. Again, we are making a little simple vessel or a little container, and we are using a technique known as the slab method. All right. So I don't want my little container to be too thick, so I'm gonna try to press it, make it a little bit thinner. All right. Okay, so I think this is about the right thickness. So the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to cut a circle. So I'm gonna try to see what tool I can use. This one will do. I'm going to make a circle. Now it might not be perfect, but I'm gonna try my best. Making my little slab in the shape of a circle. There you go. Okay, so this is all I need. This is what I wanted. I am going to recycle this leftover clay. I'm gonna use it for the walls that's going to create my vessel. All right, so this is gonna serve as the base for my little container that I'm making. You can see the thickness. This is what we want, not too thick, not too thin. And the reason for that is because if you make it too thin, then obviously it might be more prone to breaking, especially when it's in the process that hasn't been fired yet. But I am pretty satisfied with it. If you wanna smooth it out a little bit, you can spray it with water. You can use a sponge. That's gonna help you smooth it out. Also, if you notice that your shape is not as rounded as you would like it to be, another simple technique that you can do to round it a little bit more is just roll it like this. That's gonna help you make it more rounded if you're not 100% satisfied with the shape. Here I am just trying to smooth it out a little bit as much as possible. And I am going to leave it on the side for now, because now I'm gonna work on the walls. Like I mentioned earlier, this is going to serve as the base, the bottom part of my container. I'm gonna be making a simple cylinder. So now I need to work on the wall. So pretty easy, right? Not so hard yet. All right, so now I'm gonna use the remainder of the clay. I'm gonna use my roller once again. And I am simply going to try to shape it into a long rectangle. So that's why I have this odd looking shape right here, or like a long strip. And I put it here in the center. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and press on it with my rolling pin. I wanna try to get a thickness similar to what I got for the base. Should look something like this. Again, we are making just a little simple cylinder, a little simple container or vessel. This exercise is mostly for practice, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but we do want to try our best. Again, we want to make sure that we don't have any air bubbles. We kneaded and wedged our clay a little bit ago, but I'm still seeing a little bit of bubbles here and there. Just want to make sure you get rid of those, because those, like I mentioned earlier, they're very dangerous. They might make your piece explode once inside the oven, and we don't want that. You're working hard to create your little vessel, your little cylinder, and you want to make sure you avoid any bubbles. I'm going to try to make sure there's no bubbles. I can use my fingers to press on them. Now, I'm missing a little piece right there, so I'm going to get some more clay. And the good thing is that we can just go ahead and kind of just put it right here next to it, and then we blend them together. Now, when you're pressing, if you notice, you might have noticed that maybe you pressed a little bit too hard on one side, like right there. Now this is a little bit thinner than this. All you have to do is get a little bit more clay, add it on that spot, and you can go ahead and fix that. You want the same thickness or as much as possible, as close as possible throughout your piece, your little slab. Okay, so here it is. Here's my slab. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it so I can blend this other part as well. Put it right there. I'm gonna add a little bit more clay. Yeah, and I see a little bubble right there. I wanna get rid of it. Remember, we don't want bubbles because bubbles are our enemy. Bubbles will destroy our pieces. All the work that we put into it will be worthless if we don't get rid of those bubbles. So let me add a little bit more clay on this spot right there. And you know what? I think I want to make this a little bit thicker, so I'm gonna this part right there, this corner. I'm gonna go ahead and add more clay right there. Make it as even as possible. Okay, I can use my ruler too if I want to. All right, I'm gonna flip it just because I want to blend this part right here, make sure I have no bubbles. And then once I'm satisfied with the way it looks, which I am, roll it just one more time. Then all I have to do is use my tool, and use the same tool to cut it. I cut about right here, as straight as I can. There you go. I'm gonna do the same thing over here, as straight as I can. And I'm gonna end up with a long strip. It's gonna look like that. I'm gonna cut right here, and I'll do the same thing over here. All right. Okay, so this we're gonna be able to use it later, so we're gonna make sure we keep it safe. Normally, I like to put my clay in a Ziploc bag so that it doesn't dry out, depending on the humidity wherever you're at. I also like to add a little bit of water, makes it last a little bit longer. We don't want it to dry. So then this is the base, and this is going to be the wall for my cylinder or my little simple vessel that I'm going to make. I want to make sure that it's big enough that it fits, right? Looks like I might have made it a little bit smaller, but that's okay. Again, this is just practice, right? We're just practicing. So I have two options. I can make this bigger, or I can cut this. And I think that my best option right now is to make this a little bit smaller. Make the base a little bit smaller. It's probably going to save me a lot of time. So being that is the easiest solution, I'm going to go ahead and go with that option. Right here, I'm just going to kind of measure, and then I can use this tool to cut it. Right there. Okay. Now I'm just going to round it up a little bit more. Clean it up. And don't want to cut too much, so I'm going to leave it as it is. I'm just going to try to round it up. Make sure it looks nice and round. Again, you can moisten it with a little bit of water. I would like to have this sprayer handy. I would like to keep it handy because you use it a lot. You need water to keep the consistency of the clay in a state that is easy for you to manipulate it. All right, so here again, this is just a practice, so it doesn't have to be perfect. The purpose of this exercise is for us to practice the technique, the slab technique, so we can make a little cylinder, a little base, a little container. All right. Okay, so for my purposes, I am satisfied with the way it looks. Now I'm going to go ahead and connect them together like this. So one thing that we want to do is we want to score. And what do I mean by score? By scoring, all we have to do is just scratch wherever you are going to be connecting your two pieces. In this case, this is my piece, this is another piece. I'm going to be connecting them, so I'm going to score, which is scratching. All right, right there. I'm going to do that all around. So the reason why we are scoring or we're doing this is because we are going to be gluing these two pieces together, and we want to make sure that they stay together, that they connect. So now we're also going to be scoring this part right here. Just a whole bunch of little lines. Scratching, scratching, scratching. It's called scoring. And I will show you why that's important. All right, so next we're going to use some slit. And that, all it is just clay, but it's clay that has been um, soaking in water. So it looks more kind of like mud. So I have some of that here. And we are going to use this to connect our two pieces. Now this lid is not very old. I just started to make it. And usually the consistency is a little bit more like mud. But for now, I'm going to use what I have. So I'm going to go ahead and start to add some of this lid right here. And what we want is for that slit to go into those crevices that we created as we were scoring or scratching the base of our piece, right? So we want them to go in there. And do it all around where we scored. We want it to go in there. And then the goal is for this clay that we add in this lid, it also does the same thing to our other piece, our walls of our cylinder. Right here. Right there. And that's going to help connect them. Gonna make the connection stronger so it doesn't come apart. All the work that we're doing, we want to make sure that we protect it, right? So we add in this lid. That's of course already there. And then we are going to go ahead, connect it. And again, our goal is for the slit to go into those crevices to make the connection between the two pieces stronger. We want it to stay. And this is a really cool method because it's very fast, very quick. As you can see, we already have our cylinder. We of course still need to perfect it. We need to connect this part right here. Let me show you. That part right there, we still want to connect it. So we're gonna blend it. Our little cylinder. Now we can turn this cylinder into so many things. We could make a little mug out of it. We could make it into a little jewelry box. We could make a pencil holder. We could make a candle holder. Pretty much anything that we can think of, right? We can also add some decorations to it, turn it into something else, add a face, or I don't know, anything. Anything is possible. Whatever you can think of, you can create. So here I am putting my little cylinder together using a little bit of that extra clay that I have here. This clay, since I had it in water, it's a little bit more sticky or more flexible, and it allows me to connect my two pieces together. All right. know, it doesn't look like much right now, but we could use this for so many things. Like I said, we can make it into a little coffee mug. We can make it into a jewelry box. We can add a top also. We can do whatever we can imagine with it. Okay. So here we want to make sure we blend them together. We want to make sure that they stick together. We don't want it coming apart. Okay, so we are going to make sure that our pieces are connected. I'm using my fingers, but if you prefer, you can use a tool. There's all kinds of different tools that you can use. I have a whole bunch of them here. I personally prefer using my fingers because I feel like I have more control over it because I can feel. But if you feel more comfortable using a finger, I mean, one of the tools other than your finger, go right ahead and do that. I'm okay with that. It's up to you. Okay, so here you can see how my piece is already blending together. And then, of course, I'm going to clean it up, make it look nicer. I'm not a savage, I'm not an animal. I do want my piece to look pretty. All right, so here's my cylinder. Mostly done. Still got to fix it up a little bit. But this is the basics of it, right? And then again, this part right here, I think I might have pressed a little bit too much with my finger, so I'm going to make it a little bit thicker by adding a little bit of extra clay there. I'm just gonna blend it together. Again, we are making a little cylinder, and this is just a quick and simple technique that will allow you to create a cylinder using the slab method. Okay, I'm gonna blend it a little bit more right there. Now, we want to make sure that we blend it on the inside too. And that's the part where the tools come in handy because maybe your finger's not as long, depending on how tall you make your cylinder, right? So, oops, you see, that's what I was trying to avoid. Another tool that is very handy that I like to use a lot is the wheel. So I'm just going to place it right there. It allows me to spin my piece in any direction I want. So I'm going to be using this wooden tool to try to blend in the inside. That's because again my finger's not that long, so I don't want to damage it. Then by using this tool, I can go ahead and reach there without having to damage the walls of my cylinder. You just gotta make sure that you don't poke too hard. You don't want to tear it or anything like that. There you go. So now it's connected, nice and clean. I didn't damage anything. So another thing that I'm going to do now is just kind of like smooth it out a little bit more, right? And one way that you can do that is with a sponge. I always like to have a little container with water next to me. So you just dip it in the water, but you don't want to have too much water in your sponge, right? So we kind of squeeze some of the water out. Oops, dropped in there. Squeeze the water out. And then all I'm going to do is try to smooth out my cylinder. And by doing this, it's also going to make it a little bit more rounded. Smooth it out, smooth it out. Just make it look nice and clean. I want to do the same thing on the inside. There you go. Clean it up. It's a very quick and simple little cylinder that I made here. Now, we want to clean up the top part, right? Also, one way that we can do that is we can use this sharp tool right here. You see how it looks a little bit wavy, a little bit off. Kind of not super happy about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean it up. I'm going to insert my tool right there. And then I'm going to turn around the wheel. And this is going to help me cut the top part. Now, if I don't move this, it should all be the same size. And by that I mean that the wall, I should be able to get all, just cut all around and it should be even. You gotta be very careful with this step. Make sure it doesn't move. your tool that is, because if it does, then it will be uneven. All right. Might not be perfect, but I am happy with it. Now all I have to do is use the sponge again to smooth out the rim or the top part of my cylinder. Almost done here. All right, so I have my cylinder. How easy was that? Think it was easy or hard? I think it was pretty simple, not too many steps. Pretty simple. All right, so this is the first step on our piece, right? We have our cylinder. Now, the next thing that we are going to do is we are going to transform our cylinder into a piece of art. Okay, right now we just have a simple little cylinder right there, right? There's not much to it. I'm gonna make it into something a little bit more creative. So we're gonna decorate it and turn it into a piece of art. But for now, we have our cylinder, so we met our goal. Great job, guys.